In the last video, we showed you how to set up your start lists. In this video, we're going to show you how you can take these start lists and set them up for doing splits. The first thing you're going to want to do is mark the racers that you're coaching so that you can easily break them out from the rest of the splits. This is done using the POI button, meaning people of interest. This allows you to categorize your racers into up to 5 different categories. In this demonstration, we're going to put most of the people in category 1 and a couple into category 2. You'll see that they're marked in different colors. Once you've marked all the people that you'd like to track, then what you can do on race day is go into the race clock and synchronize the clock with the clock being used for the race. This does not have to be to the second because you're really trying to do comparative times between the racers. So this will still allow you, even if it's a few seconds off, to give you accurate time back from the leader. Once the race clock has been set appropriately, you're then going to want to go in and set up your data for recording the splits. This is done on the split screen, and the first thing you're going to want to do is, if you've been testing the system, is clear out all your old splits, reload the data, and then you're ready to record the splits based on the newly set race clock. Once the split window is set up, you're going to have to move quickly because you're not going to be able to record every single racer that goes by, but hopefully you can record the ones that you're interested in. As they go by a selected landmark, you'll click on their bib number, and what it will do is it will record the time, and you can see that they're at this point only pink. When you want to see the actual times back, you can select the Update Splits button, and it will produce lists of the racers and their selected time back. So in the top window, we have the overall placement of all racers. In the bottom window, we have the people of interest. And the people of interest shown both the time back from the leader and the time back from each other. And if you have a selected racer that you're interested in, you can also select the Track Racer button, which you can see in the upper center of the screen. And this will allow you to select a racer and then track that racer based on the leader time. So this will give you a real-time readout of where they are in terms of the racer. So here we've picked bib 29. We've gone to the tracking window, and we can see that right now it's about 8 seconds ahead, but we haven't seen this person yet. And when they finally get by, we will record a split. And in this particular example, they tied the leader. We recorded the split right at 0. And so the next time we update splits, we will see that that racer shows up in the starting position of the list for both the people of interest and for the overall leaders. Once you've recorded enough of the racers and you'd like to forward this to another coach on the course, you can create a PDF, assuming that you have cell phone service, and you can forward that PDF via email to that other person. Here we're not producing email, we're just going to produce the PDF. But that person then can quickly see the overall position of people, and you'll see the people of interest under bib number are marked in different colors so they can quickly see where everybody is located. So this shows you the basics of how to record splits. This demonstration made everything look very easy, but in reality you're going to be facing typically 3 different problems. 2 of them relate to the temperature and 1 relates to getting the start list. As far as temperature goes, that's going to affect your battery life. And here I show a shot of an external battery pack using a cable to connect it to my iPad to give it extra juice. I strongly recommend that you have a backup battery pack because the cold will make your device run down very quickly, and if you don't have backup power, you're going to lose your equipment before the race is over. Second, the temperature is going to interfere not only with the battery, as we've already mentioned, but also with the capacitance detection of your finger when you touch the screen. I recently purchased an iPad Pro which uses a pencil. I have not seen how the cold affects the pencil. The pencil does not use a capacitance detection technology. It uses Bluetooth, so hopefully it will work a little better in the cold. But you need to keep your hands warm at all times. If your fingers get too cold, they will not register on the screen, and if the screen gets too cold, the same thing happens. So here I show a case that I use with my iPad, and I have several hand warmers going that I constantly am using with my hands to keep my hands warm. So make sure that your equipment is well protected, particularly if it's below freezing, which it usually is, and make sure that you have backup battery power. The last thing that you need to worry about is the start list itself. You may not be getting an electronic version of the start list, and you may not want to punch in all the names manually. This will demonstrate how you can rough out a quick start sheet. What you want to do is create a column for the bib, last, first, starting time, and person of interest. So I'm going to put in a bib of 1. And what I can do is I can go up and hit the control key, touch the right-hand corner. We'll just do 20 people. And you can see I dragged down and it created the first 20 bib numbers. Now the last names, I'm not going to put in all the last names. I'll just put in the last names of the people that I want to track. So I'll say Smith, Jones, Johnson, and maybe this will be Peter, Jim, and John. And then what I can do is I can put in the start time of the first race, or maybe the start time is 1 o'clock, so I'll put that in as 13:00:00. And what I can do there is that I can then say the next one equals this plus time, and that takes 3 arguments: hours, 0, minutes, 0. Let's say they're starting every 15 seconds, so I'll say 15, and you can see it added 15 seconds. I then can do Control C and Control V for our first 19 skiers, and then for the people of interest I'm just going to put 1, 1, and 1 for the 3 racers that I'm tracking. Now I'll have the bib numbers for the other people, which I can record their times. I won't have their names, and you can put in many names as you want. And then I want to save this. And what I do is I want to save it on my machine. And what I'll do is I'll save it as start, but I don't want to save it as a spreadsheet. I want to save it as a CSV file. Start CSV, and I will save it, and then I will close it. And then at this point what I'm going to do is I'm going to email it to myself, and then I'll show you what we do on the iPhone or the iPad when we get the email. Now I'll switch over to the iPhone where I've received the email. I will tap the CSV file attachment to download it. And once I've downloaded it, I will then send a copy over to FileMaker Go. Now I have 2 versions of FileMaker Go on my iPhone. I'll send it to the newer version, which is the one that we are using. Once it's there, I can then launch the race application, which is race 6, and I will go into the application and load the CSV file. You'll see with the iPhone version of this application, sometimes the phone is held horizontally and sometimes vertically. Now we find the CSV file, load it into the application. It's in its raw format. It has not been broken out by commas. We change the delimiter from quote comma to just commas, and then we load the raw file into the staging table. Now you can see it's broken it up into columns, and what we need to do is map the columns into the appropriate fields in our application. So first I need to clear the columns that were left over from the previous load, and then I'll map the columns that we have in this load. Now I can save this map if I want to as a saved format, so I don't have to come in and remap each time I create my spreadsheet from my start list. But we did not prepare a saved field map in advance, so we are mapping each of the fields individually. So as you can see, we're mapping bib, last, first, start, and also person of interest. This means that we'll have all of the fields in the appropriate place when we load the staging table into the race application, and all we're going to have to do is go right into the split window and load the array, and we can record the splits as soon as we synchronize the race clock. So now I've mapped the fields. I'll go back and I will load the data from the staging table into the race. I've previously created a race for this race, and we will load the racers into that previously created race. And you can see it loaded 19 racers. We return, there are the 19 racers. We'll change the sort so it's by bib, and that way we can see them in the order that they were put in the spreadsheet. You can see the 3 racers that we put in as people of interest, and then you can see the placeholders for all the other bib numbers. Then we go into the split window, and we will clear out any data that's already there. Since it's a new race, there wasn't any data. And we've loaded in the racers that came from our spreadsheet. And now at this point, all we need to do is go back and set up the race clock, and we'll just set it to an arbitrary time. We don't have a race time for this example. We'll say 10 minutes, and then we'll go back in and show that the iPhone split recording works exactly the same as the iPad. It's a little less real estate, so we can't show quite as many bibs at a time, but we scroll through, we mark bibs as they go by, we update the splits, and you can see it's creating the lists of the racers and the people of interest. So this gives you a good overview of how to take splits using this application. This application is supported on Windows computers, iPhones, and iPads. Obviously, you're not going to carry a Windows computer out onto the course. The iPhone Plus is the best portable device because it's easy to carry around, easy to keep warm. You can simply press it against your body or hold it under your jacket while you're waiting. And the iPads tend to run a little more slowly since the screens are so large. It takes a little more horsepower to update all of that video. So unless you're running an iPad Pro, I find the iPads are just too cumbersome and too slow. If you do want to use an iPad Pro, the case that I made has a strap that you can put over your head so that the case is right at your chest level, so it's easy to access. Regardless of the device you use, once you've created the start list, you can create a race package and send that start list to as many devices as you want. And you can use one device for start, several devices for splits, and you can have several devices also being used for the finish, all using copies of the same start list. And this concludes the demonstration of how to do splits.